Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of Providend's Money Wisdom Podcast. I'm your host, Isaac, Client Advisor at Providend. Today's episode is the 6th chapter of our mini-series titled The Story of Our Client's Wealth Journey. In our first episode, we talked about who our clients typically are, their concerns, and their need for a trusted wealth advisor. In the second episode, we talked about the potential reasons for the lack of trust in the advisory industry and the need for sound wealth advice. In our third episode, we discussed how Providend was set up to be the trusted advisor to our clients to allow us to guide them through a minefield of misinformation with honest, independent, and competent advice. In our fourth episode, we talked about our discovery process and why it is important for us to understand our prospective clients on a deeper level and to guide them to make life decisions before financial decisions. And in our previous episode, we talked about the presentation of analysis meeting where we consolidate, crunch numbers, and present various scenarios to our clients. For today, we'll be talking about what happens next. After the client and the advisor has agreed to proceed with a scenario, which is the presentation of plan meeting. Join with me today is Tan Chin Yu, team lead of our advisory team. Hi Chin Yu, great to have you back.
Hi Isaac. Hi everyone.
Right, so let's just jump right into it. Okay, so first off, what does the next step, on a high level, what does the next step of our client process, which is the presentation of plan meeting, entail?
Okay, so Isaac, you just went through the whole process. There's so many things that's going on, but if I could just summarize them into two main parts. So one is that we take all that time to do the planning work. We want to make sure that we align, like I think I mentioned in the past episodes, aligning our resources towards the things that are important to you. And now, after we have done all that, it's about consolidating all these considerations, and then we talk about the recommendation as well as the implementation. Yeah, so presentation of plan, or the POP, which is what we're talking about today, it's really, like I said, consolidating all those considerations that we have gone through in the past few meetings, in the discovery, in the presentation of analysis meeting. And then, part of it, we do financial health checks, we do ratios to make sure that financially you're sound before investing. And then after that, we want to take into consideration what sort of needs do you have, what sort of time horizon, which then flows into the portfolio recommendations. Yeah, then after that, then it comes to the implementation phase of the whole process.
Right, so Chin, you mentioned that this is the first time that our clients will actually get a product recommendation in our process. So why do we wait until this stage before we give clients a recommendation?
Yeah, so I think I mentioned before, how we view things is that the planning phase is very important. We don't just jump into the product recommendation, which tends to happen in many places. You go over there, here's a product, what are the features, pros and cons, and then, getting you to invest in them. But for us, why is it so important to make sure that we go through the whole planning process before recommendation? Is because we want to consider a lot of our clients' very personal and individual needs. So I like to use a nutrition analogy. Okay, so for somebody who wants to improve his or her nutrition, perhaps he goes to see a nutritionist. So buying the ingredients is very easy. You just go to the supermarket. There's these days online shopping. It's so easy to buy the ingredients. But before knowing what sort of ingredients or food is suitable for you, it's important that we need to have a detailed understanding of your situation. Because nutrition is highly personal. We need to understand your overall goals. So overall goals for nutrition could be maybe you want to lose weight, you want to have more energy, you want to reduce stress. Yeah. So these could be different objectives a person could have. And then individually how your body react to certain foods, what are your eating habits, have you tried so far, your physical lifestyle, what's your exercise regime, before you want to be able to come up with a comprehensive wealth plan that caters to your personal needs and situation to help achieve those goals. Yeah, so I thought that this nutrition analogy is a very good example of how we view the wealth planning process, because this requires time to assess and plan out. It's not something to jump into some kind of cookie cutter, diet plan. Yeah. So for us, before we talk about, financial strategies, investment products, instruments. We need to have clarity over clients, what we call non-negotiable life goals and life events. And we want to understand the current situation. Basically, for example, Isaac, where you're at the moment. What are your current resources? What are your potential future resources? And then we want to know your insurance situation as well. What you have been investing in, what are your experiences investing so far, trying out different things, what's your relationship with money, what are some of your personal stories, your core values. Different people have different values about money. And then only then we can develop a suitable strategy, or in the earlier analogy, that nutrition plan. Yeah. So that's why we want to take all that time to understand our clients. Then only at this stage, what we call the presentation analysis, then we talk about suitable investments or instruments. And this really requires time. And even after those few meetings, I wouldn't say that we really have a full understanding of our client situation, because they've taken all these years growing up, investing, developing these money values. It takes time to uncover, but based on these conversations we have with clients, we think that at least after this few meetings, it's sufficient for us to create that foundation for clients.
Right, that's a great analogy. I never really thought about it that way. So I guess you're right. I mean, getting the products, getting all these investment products is very readily available nowadays. It's about finding what's best for the client that's important, and that's why there's so much work done prior to that. So on that point, so we spend quite a bit of time doing all this prep work, right? So how do we ensure that clients come on board with our proposed solution and to stick to the plan for the long term?
Yeah, so for us, the whole process, I would say, is a collaborative process. It is not one where clients just come in, okay, this is my situation, tell me what to do. There's a lot of discussion. So firstly, it's a collaborative process that, through those sessions, it's a discussion over some of the life trade-off, clarification over what we understand about clients. And then I would say there's three main points in terms of, how we make sure that when clients come on board, they will stick to the plan for the long term. Yeah. So number one, we help clients see how this proposed plan has taken into consideration all that we discussed earlier. Yeah, so we want clients to understand that there's a certain reason why there's so much time. It's not just for show.
Just for the sake of it, right?
Just for the sake of it. Yeah. But we want clients to understand that, this wealth plan that we have taken all this time to develop, it has considered all that we've discussed. So that's number one. Number two, because we are really planning for clients' non-negotiable life goals and life events, we need to help clients see why this approach gives them the highest probability of success. I mean, even recently, there's a lot of talk about S&P 500, chasing after high returns. And S&P have done well. But part of how the S&P have done well is also because of a certain concentration to a small subsection of the market. Yeah. So for us, again, because we are planning for these non-negotiable life goals, we want a high reliability, and therefore, from an investment philosophy standpoint, we want to make sure clients are fully diversified globally. Yeah. So that's number two, making sure that there's high reliability in terms of the plan that we develop for them. And then the last one is that we need to show them how we will help them stick to the plan. Yeah, because a plan is only as good as how you execute it and how you stick to it, because we can, work out a plan for clients all we want, but end of the day, if the client is not on board, the client doesn't follow the plan, then it's very hard to ensure the success of it.
Right, thanks, Chin-Yu. So let's dive deeper into these 3 points that you have mentioned, right? So the first point is about us helping our clients see that our proposed plan has taken into considerations all the things that we have discussed. So how do we help them see this?
Yeah, so the first part on, I mentioned about helping clients see that we have considered many things. One of the examples I like to use is the risk profile. So risk profile, it's something that, for investment institutions, you as a regulatory requirement, you need to do a risk profile. It's usually standard questionnaires. Then after that, you come up with some kind of outcome, whether it's moderate risk profile, low risk profile, or a more aggressive. and then that leads to some kind of recommendation. But to us, it's, as much as we try to make it as relevant as possible, we also understand that it's just a set of standard questions. But beyond that, because we are able to understand our clients' relationship with money, we do want to consider a lot of these, concerns, fears, experiences into the wealth plan. So if you look at the wealth plan, typically it's a very long document. It's about 80 to 100 pages. I mean, of course, there's always appendixes. There's always disclaimers and things like that. But it is still a heavy document. And why it's heavy is because it's important for us to document a lot of what we captured. Yeah. So things that go into this wealth management plan are what we have captured in terms of clients' money values, some of the non-quantifiable details that we have captured, clients' goals, how much it requires, things like the relationship with not only money but personal relationships. Who are the important relationships? Because sometimes there could be some trade-offs as well, unless you have a lot of abundance of money. But otherwise, most clients, they need to have some kind of trade-offs in terms of how they would allocate their resources.
Right. So it's not uncommon that clients implement what they eventually go with is something that is not exactly what is the result of their risk profile.
Yep.
And really it's about through all the meetings that we have, what they have shared with us, in all these meetings that we determine like what is their real risk profile. Of course, the risk profile is still an important document, but we don't use it as like a be-all and all. It's kind of like a reference, and in the end, what they eventually do recommend with is something that we determine is most appropriate for them.
Yeah, and sometimes it could be something that's unspoken by the client, but it's important for us to notice certain things. Yeah, that's why even some of the discussions of discovery meeting, we even talk about clients' hobbies. What do you want to do? Could there be certain possibilities that they want to consider rather than simply say that, okay, I'm going to retire at 60 and then, travel the world.
And how their past experiences were like with other advisors, or even their own personal investment experiences as well.
Yeah, and while things can change in the future, this document forms a very strong foundation and roadmap. And then basically as the plan progresses along the years, you do want to reflect back on this initial foundation as a solid framework, and then you make changes along the way.
Right. Okay, so on to the next point that you mentioned, which is about how our approach give clients the highest probability of success. So could you unpack that a little? Like, what do you mean by highest probability of success?
Yeah, so part of it involves the investment instruments that we use for our clients. So one is that we want to identify asset classes that has shown strong evidence to give long-term expected returns. I think we've talked about this in previous podcast episodes, so I wouldn't expand too much about investment philosophy, but this is important. I mean, part of our investment recommendation comes with an investment policy statement, which is really important as well, and that really outlines the evidence, the background behind why we are confident behind this approach. Yeah, so I think we will put the link in this podcast if you are interested to listen to this episode. I think we'll put the link to an article as well that we have written. So to give you an example, equities is one example that has given or equities and bonds have given long-term returns that are reliable, and another example that is not is cryptocurrencies, which hasn't quite proven itself. Of course, cryptos you can speculate on them, but it's definitely not something that we want to use for clients, especially in terms of their non-negotiable life goals.
Right, because our clients, when they invest their money with us, it's usually their serious money.
Yep.
Right, it's not money that they set aside just or you see how it goes.
Yeah.
It's their retirement money, and we cannot afford to make any mistakes when it comes to managing their money.
Yeah, exactly. So investment instruments is one. From a planning standpoint, we do need to make certain assumptions, because assumptions affect how much resources you need, when you can retire, and things like that. So for us, we use a scientific model such as the Ibbotson-Chen model for equities, such that we estimate the expected returns of these asset classes, and then, like I said, it helps us estimate those returns in the planning. And then, like I shared earlier, it's also that we spend a lot of time trying to know clients' concerns, their aspirations, their life goals, events, to basically know their need, ability, willingness. I think this is something that we speak about a lot, so that we can understand what sort of risks they should be taking, so that they can stick to the plan for the long term as well. Because, like I said, sticking to the plan makes sure that they can achieve their life goals in the long run. And that really comes down to matching that suitable portfolios to give them the returns that they need. And it's always the trade-offs. Of course, higher expected returns instruments can help you achieve your goals faster. Maybe you can achieve bigger goals. But again, it's not going to work if you're not going to stick to your plan. So there can be some trade-offs that we want to make. And I always say that, sometimes for retirees, you want to enjoy your retirement. You don't want to be worrying about the markets, just because you're taking on a certain risk level that is beyond what you can undergo. Yeah, and we are really serious about these few steps, because the highest probability of success is important. Yeah, whether it's asset classes to generate those returns, or to estimate those returns as accurately as possible. Because the success of clients' plan depend on these factors. And then after that, we look out for all these instruments, low costs, to express the allocation, the right asset allocation in a portfolio.
Hi listener, we hope you've been enjoying this episode and the podcast series so far. If this podcast has been beneficial to you, please give us a rating on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or your favorite podcast platform. And if you're watching this on YouTube, do like this video and subscribe to not miss our future episodes. Thank you, and let's get back to the episode.
So on to your point about that, we always say we don't try to maximize returns. We want to get the most reliable returns, right? So when we do our planning, we have certain planning assumptions that we want to use. We want to use the instrument that will give us at least the highest chance of achieving this. So for example, earlier you mentioned in the podcast that you could buy the S&P 500, right, which is a single country, and as of today is quite tech heavy, right? So of course, if you get it right, you will get outsized returns, right? But if you get it wrong, the consequence is quite dire, and in the context of our clients, it's perhaps maybe not being able to retire or having really to cut back on their expenses in retirement, for example.
Yeah. On the instruments, I keep saying that we are very serious about it, but it's a long journey. So for Providend, for those of our listeners who have been following us for a long time, you know that we use a lot of low-cost instruments. We use instruments with that has proven itself, empirically or academically. But these instruments are not as easy to find in the Singapore market, because it's a fact that most of the high-cost funds are the ones that typically are more, readily distributed. But again, because it's very important for us to help achieve clients' long-term goals. We spend a long time to find those fund managers that we deem suitable to work with. I think we probably wrote an article about on this some time back as well. But we spoke to different Vanguard managers. Dimension, of course, people know that we work with them. But it's an ongoing journey that we keep looking out, despite it being a very difficult one for us.
Yeah, there's so many different types of instruments out there. Sometimes it's, there are certain things that we consider, like where the fund is domiciled, operationally, how do we, as a business, how do we manage their money operationally? All these are actually things that we also consider. And also our investment teams will have quarterly meetings with the fund managers to make sure that they're sticking to their mandate, and also to ask them certain questions if we feel that there's something that we need clarifications on.
Yeah, a lot of behind the scenes.
Yeah. So lastly, how do we, you mentioned earlier in your previous answer about how these instruments will help our clients stick to the plan for the long term, right? So besides just the instruments helping our clients stick to the plan for a long term, what else do we do to help our clients really just go all the way and not deviate too much from the plan?
Yeah, so for us, we call it lifelong conversations because, like I said, even though this process is very long, we took a lot of time to build this foundation, but it's an ongoing journey. So we call it lifelong conversations, and that's where we want to be able to meet clients regularly to check the progress of their plan, and we want to translate any changes in our life. So if you think about the success of a plan, there's a few things that can significantly affect it. So number one, of course, investment return. So that's usually something that we review through with the clients, making sure that, is it on track? Are we using the best instruments for clients? Secondly, it's making sure that the implementation is there. That's why this whole collaborative process of helping them understand why we decide on certain things, what's the approach, or do we implement a certain consideration for clients if they raise up. But lastly, it's about, I keep saying sticking to the plan. Not only sticking to the plan, but also making sure that we incorporate any changes in our clients' lives. Yeah. So, for those who have been following us also, you know that we avoid market timing, because of market events, but we do want to be active when it comes to changes in our clients' situation. So, any new needs they have that they might need a plan, we want to incorporate that. And we believe that if they see that their plan stays relevant, there's a higher likelihood that they will continue to stick with it. Yeah. And again, they're investing for a long time. While there's a lot of assumptions made in this planning, you're not going to know 10 years, 20 years later how the world will be. The world will change. Markets will be volatile. So part of it is also we execute what we call a turbulence management plan. And why we call it a turbulence management plan is because we see it as if a client is working towards getting to its destination, but along the way there could be turbulence which can be uncomfortable. Yeah, so we want to make sure that clients journey through in a comfortable manner. Clients understand what's going on, because sometimes if you are sitting in an airplane, if there's turbulence, it's good to understand from the pilot what's happening out there. Is it clouds? Is there anything to worry about? Yeah, so for us, turbulence management plan, or TMP in short, is executed the moment when they start their journey. So the whole thing starts when we share about our investment philosophy. We share more of a continuous investment education to prepare them in advance what to expect. Yeah. Again, we are not fortune tellers. We can never forecast in 6 months' time, is there going to be a major event that happens like COVID that can derail the markets, cause the market to go down 20, 30%. But we are conscious that these events do happen. So as long as clients have equities in a portfolio, we do want to make sure that they are prepared for these things to come. But we have already taken into consideration these volatility and make sure that before investing in equities, for example, they have that time horizon to invest. And then when volatility strikes, different departments in Providend will come together in a coordinated effort to help them understand better, to help to calm their nerves. And then I would say the success of it is to make sure that they stay invested and not panic sell, which can actually hurt their planning investments in the long run.
Our strategy is about buying and holding until you hit your goals, and it doesn't mean that we are just oblivious with what's happening in the markets, right? So for example, if you are investing on your own, you see your investments, it can be quite volatile. You can see sometimes it's going down for a period of time, and when you try to find out why this is happening, there's so many different opinions out there. So our investment team would, of course, sift through all this, and of course provide an update, keep you abreast with the news. At the same time also, the advisors will reassure the clients that actually this is normal. Like you mentioned, in turbulence management plan, it's not just the advisors that is activated. Our whole company is activated, right? From our brand team to our investment team. We'll make sure communication is there to let the clients know that we are there. And really, when it comes to markets, sometimes it's not something that is within our control, but what we focus on things that we can control, right? Like you mentioned, lifelong conversations with our clients. Sometimes, we let markets do their thing, but it's about speaking with the clients and see like, okay, if there's any curveballs that life threw at them, right? It could be sometimes it's something positive, right? It could be a substantial raise, and then we can refresh the plan a little, or sometimes if something negative, perhaps maybe a layoff or maybe a death in the family, for example. Yeah, so I always say that the initial plan that we do for our clients is a snapshot in time. We make the best guess that we can make, but at the same time, like you mentioned, we don't have a crystal ball. It's always important to keep the plan fresh, and do tweaks along the way if need be, so that it remains relevant for our clients and it will allow them to stick to the plan because it still makes sense to them.
Yep, exactly.
So Chin, some of our clients and as well as our listeners are quite savvy regarding their finances and investment, right? So they could adopt our investment philosophy and implement these themselves, right? So where and how does Providend come in to add value to people like that?
Yeah, actually, we do have quite a few savvy clients, and even some clients they are, pretty having or rather having very strong knowledge in their respective fields. But if you ask me, there's a lot going on, and we always say that when a client comes in, they're not just a Chinyu client or Isaac client, they're a Providend client because we are institutionalized such that we support our clients together. Yeah, our solutions team, our investment team, brand team, of course the advisory team, all of us come together to support the client. So I'm not really sure if an individual person can adopt the entire process on its own. Of course, he or she can do their own planning, they can do their own investments, but there's a lot to go through as well, and it takes a lot of team effort. Yeah, then of course, some of the investment team they require certain paid, access to data in order for them to review whether it's portfolios or even get access to making certain changes in the funds with the portfolio managers. But yes, we do have a lot of financially and investment savvy clients. So it's always a question on why do they approach us. And actually, it's something that we do actively ask our clients, what's the greatest value that they get? Because for us, it's always important that we ongoingly provide that value to clients. Otherwise, our clients are free to leave us if they don't see that value. So I would say, firstly, many of our clients are busy professionals or successful business owners. So although that even if they can spend the time to manage this themselves, they want to outsource this job. Yeah, because it's true that it does require time and energy to do so, and not every client wants to spend their time watching the markets, tracking spreadsheets, doing asset allocation, rebalancing when they are retired, for example. Yeah, and I think that they are successful because they know to outsource some of these non-core activities, things that perhaps they don't necessarily enjoy doing, to a professional that they can trust. And when they found us, they want to outsource this financial management of their lives to us so that they can focus on the things that are really more important to them, which is why I talk about understanding clients' hobbies. Again, time is a resource. So it's, one is outsourcing the time. And of course, when clients do that, we not only feel a very great sense of responsibility, but we're also very grateful, such that, again, we take it very seriously to give them the highest odds of success. Yeah. I've also read somewhere before, there's this 4 C's on why clients, engage an advisory firm or professional firm like us. And the 4 C's is either, they look out for convenience. So like I said, they don't want to manage some of these things themselves. They want a professional. Of course, they need to trust this professional firm. Competency is one. They feel that the competency also help to look out for blind spots and help them avoid making costly mistakes. Third one is continuity. Perhaps we do also have some clients who are very savvy, but sometimes either their spouses or their children are not as savvy, and they want to make sure there's continuity in the event. Let's say they're no longer around, or they perhaps they lose the ability to continue manage some of these portfolios. And the last one is coaching, which is tying in with this TMP I mentioned. Coaching, or you mentioned buy and hold, it sounds simpler than it is, because when a crisis hits in the market, there can be quite a lot of uncertainty, a lot of self-doubt. Yeah, so this coaching also helps to provide value for clients in the long run, because these are important goals, like you said. They cannot make mistakes, and I would say even top athletes have coaches to help them improve the way that they are performing, even though they are already top athletes themselves.
Right. I think onto your point also, in terms of the content that we're giving to the public, right, through our YouTube channel, through our podcast, we're not gatekeepers of information. Of course, we can't make product recommendations on air, but in terms of how we plan, how we think about planning for insurance, how we think about investing, how do we think about estate planning, how do we think about end of life planning, like your LPA, your advanced medical directive AMD, or your advanced care planning. But it's really, it's not to say that we are hiding all this from our listeners, right? I mean, if you just scroll through our whole podcast list, you can see that there are topics on various aspects of personal finance that we really want to share with everyone. But it's how do you use all this information, consolidate all of this, and make it apply it well, and make it bespoke to you. That's important.
Yeah, actually you brought up a good point. Not just investments.
Yeah.
There's estate planning, taxes, insurance, and even us as advisors, we always don't claim that one single person can be expert in everything. That's why we all come together to do the research in different areas, and then collectively help clients implement the best plan.
Right. I mean, like if you have very high insurance costs, right? Maybe you have outperformance in your own investments, but it's not enough to make up for the cost that you're paying for your insurance, or perhaps maybe there's a bit of a blind spot, and in the end, you hold some assets that have estate duty upon death, right, up to 40%, for example, which could lead to quite bad consequences for your beneficiaries and the loved ones you leave behind. So our job really is to use all these, use our philosophies, use whatever that we know to really make sure that when we craft the plan, all the blind spots are taken care of, and to make sure that our clients, even though they might be savvy, but they really, to always be on the lookout for all these blind spots. And like I mentioned earlier, you cannot afford to make too many mistakes in personal finance, right? So really our job is to make sure that all these are covered, and our clients can rest assured that their money and their wealth is well managed. Okay, so how? Just one last question, and I think it was really about how successful have we been so far, in terms of getting our clients on board, with our philosophy, with the plan, to stick with the plan, and really, stick with the plan and help them to achieve their life goals and non-negotiable life events.
Yeah, I mean, I like to think that we have been successful. One area that we look at is how much we have grown in terms of the asset size that we have managed. I mean, last year we have celebrated hitting that 1 billion of assets under management. Right now, I think we are about 1.2 billion. So that's one. While we are thankful that clients put their trust in us, it also represents that responsibility of us to continue to do the right things for our clients. Of course, at 1.2 billion, we do have greater leverage when getting the right instruments for clients. So that's another benefit. Yeah, but again, I mentioned earlier that for us, we don't believe in locking our clients' money up. It's not that they come in, I'm going to tie your money up for the next 20 years, you cannot leave us. Every single one of our clients, if they find that they don't get any more value out of this, they are always free to leave us. So the fact that we have grown to about 1.2 billion, I think hopefully it says a lot in terms of our success to help clients stick to the plan and getting value. And I think the other encouraging fact is that we do get a lot of referrals and word of mouth from clients, because I think that when they find there's certain value that they're getting from us, they do sincerely want to benefit the people that they love as well. Yeah. So that's that. And even in, I talk about TMP, Turbulence Management Plan. We executed, a lot of this, especially in the last few years. I mean, 2020 COVID markets fell, 2022 markets fell. We activated quite a lot. So even 2020, when the S&P 500 fell by about 30% from the peak, for us, almost no clients actually redeem because of they panic sell.
Some of them
Yeah.
even topped up during that period
Yup.
with their dry powder.
Yeah, and I mean those clients who topped up, they have benefited quite a lot. Yeah, but the key is always to make sure that clients are okay, clients are calm. So I thought that that part we have executed well because almost no clients liquidated, and it really shows how our process has helped them stick the course. And then, like I said, when they topped up, I think they have benefited quite a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, that's in stark contrast with what we hear about in the industry, right? We see a lot of people redeeming, panic selling, but because when our clients invest, they don't invest money that they need for emergencies, for example. So even if, let's say, there's a recession, they might have lost their job, but they still have their emergency fund to help them tide through that period while they're looking for a job, and they don't have to panic redeem their investments, especially at this kind of bad times, and take a loss just to tide through a period where they are looking for their next job.
Yeah, and it's always encouraging when clients encourage us by saying that they are really thankful that they've gone through this whole process, they have benefited a lot. Because sometimes some of these things can be quite intangible, but it feels very encouraging when actually clients tell us how we have helped them. And even some of this might not be just investment returns, but having that peace of mind, which is really important. Yeah. So if you can allow me to just share one of the Google review. I mean, I've got it over here. Google review is something that really encourages us, and especially when clients take the time to write down how they benefited from the whole process. So one of our clients have wrote, I've been using Providend services for more than 15 years, and I'm very happy and satisfied with their professional, competent, reliable, caring, and conflict-free approach in serving their clients. I especially like their client-centric values as they always focus on meeting our individual and family needs and place our interests above anyone else's interests. With Providend as my trusted financial advisor, my family and I can sleep well at night. So I think this really sums up the success we have done for our clients. And like I said, we are very thankful. We don't take it lightly because it is a heavy responsibility when somebody places so much trust in you. You want to continue doing the right job for them.
Right, thanks Shin Yu. It's always very heartwarming to hear all these messages. When we look at Google reviews that they leave us, it's usually not those one-liners. Usually it's quite a long paragraph, and it's very very touching to read. Because it's very sincere when they write all these reviews for us.
So for those of our listeners, it's very encouraging. So if you don't mind, we always are very happy to receive Google reviews from our clients.
Yeah, or you can just drop a like on this video or this podcast. Yeah, we appreciate that too. Yeah, so so thanks to you. I mean, the presentation of plan meeting is really, to sum it all up, is essentially a meeting where, of course, we talk about strategy, how we efficiently allocate our clients' resources to help them achieve their life goals, and really to help them stick with the plan for the long run, so that they can live a good life for themselves, right? So we discussed quite a fair bit about the prep work before a single dollar is invested, but we also recognize that there is a lot of work to be done after our clients invest their money. Right, so with that, that's all the time we have today. Once again, thank you for your time and insights again, Shin Yu.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me here. I was very happy to share about the process.
Yeah, it's always a pleasure to have you on. To all our listeners, I hope you enjoyed our episode on the presentation of plan meeting. So if you like this episode, follow and subscribe to our podcast if you have not done so already. As always, thank you for listening, and I'll see you in the next episode. All analysis, views or opinions from interviews, recommendations and other information broadcasted, or published herein are provided for general information purposes only. Information expressed does not take into account any specific situation, particular needs or objectives, and should not be construed as specific advice or a recommendation. Information has been obtained from sources that are deemed to be reliable, but their accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed. Always consult with a qualified investment, legal or tax professional before taking any action. Providend Limited does not accept any liability for any loss whatsoever arising from any use of the information broadcasted or published herein. All contents and information contained herein may not be copied or reproduced in whole or in part by any means without prior written consent of Providend Limited.